right, let's call this meeting to order. This is the January 5th joint meeting of the Reading Municipal Light Board and the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board. This meeting is being taped, not live, so apparently we will have a taped version later, but this meeting is not being broadcast live. On our agenda, there's one agenda item, and that's to discuss the issue of renewable energy certificates and what to do with them. Arthur, I guess you want to call your group to order?
We'll call the Citizens Advisory Board to order for Thursday, January 5th. And just so a lot of people don't know the members of the Citizens Advisory Board, you're not familiar with it, except for Fred. But my name is Arthur Caracasani. I'm the representative from Linfield. I have the other members introduce themselves and what town they represent.
Tony Capitanco from Reading. Tom Orla from Wilmington. John Norton from North Reading.
George Hooper from Wilmington.
And one other item before we launch into this first major item is that I believe both boards have received considerable materials, memos from staff, but more importantly, or just as importantly, items either submitted by members of the boards and concerned citizens. All those are too numerous to mention here now, but there are a significant number and all be made by the official record. We've all seen them and soon review them, so they're all will be considered in our deliberations. I think the public input first.
Yeah, even though it wasn't formally listed on the agenda, we do, at all of our meetings, have an opportunity for public comment. So let me start by just making sure there are any elected officials for the town that serve in the audience. Seeing no one raising their hands, would any member of the public like to make a comment to these groups?
Mr. Chairman, are you going to allow comment later on during the deliberations on the RECs, or is this the only time for any comments from the public?
No, I don't intend to curtail any discussion. I mean, if you have a question or a comment as the proceedings go forward, I would ask you to put your hand up and be recognized.
Okay, I would like to make a statement at some point, but I don't have to make it right now during public comment.
It's your choice.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. If I think the member of the public has a prepared statement, the statement should be given at the beginning, and then if there are questions during the discussion, that's one thing. I don't see a statement being made in the midst of towards discussion of an issue.
That's probably a good point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To you and also to the CAB members in the department. My name is Fred Van Vagnus. I reside at 243 Franklin Street, Reading, Massachusetts, and have been involved in various parts of the CAB for a few years in town government. This issue of the RECs is obviously somewhat of a charged issue down here now. I'm not sure how the board is finally going to weigh in on this, and you may have a lot more information than I've been privy to have, because obviously I don't have the resources that you have at your disposal to analyze these things. The point I'd like to make to this board, in exercising your responsibilities as elected officials from the town of Reading, when you're elected to this board, you are elected to represent the ratepayers of not only the town of Reading, but also the other 3 towns that constitute this department. And when I look at the discussions of whether to allow a particular instrument that has a potential financial benefit to the ratepayers expire without the opportunity to favorably impact the ratepayers, I take strong exception to that type of activity. Now, again, I don't have all the data, don't have all the pieces, but it fundamentally seems to me that there's 2 issues here. One, you either let this expire with no value, or you go to the market and you collect a dollar value of revenue to bring into this department to offset costs and to maybe offset rates. And that seems to me to be the fundamental items of discussion. Maybe there's more, and I'd be more than glad to ask questions later on. However, I believe that every single person on the Board of Commissioners here has the responsibility in voting on this particular issue to first of all represent the benefits that this might represent to the ratepayers in all of the 4 communities. I understand that renewable energy is very important, and there are obviously people that want to be in the green side of things, and you know, I am the first person to think that having renewables is a fabulous opportunity. But right now, we're not talking essentially about renewables. We're talking about these monetary instruments that have a value. So I'm going to ask this board that in your deliberations, that your very first decision process is, when you make a vote, are you in fact voting in the very best interest of the ratepayers to reduce costs and to maximize the revenue and the return to them? And that's my charge to the board in doing it with the information that I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to address you tonight, and I look forward to the debate as it goes on. Thank you very much.
Fred.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to make a statement? Ron?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, board, for having me, and advisory board for listening. My name is Ron Van, staff of the RMLD. Thank you. I'm going to offer an opposing view to Mr. Fred. I'm going to say that, yeah, I do, and I'm speaking also, at least in part, as chair of the Reading Climate, Energy, and Environmental Committee here in town, in the town of Reading, Mass. About 2 weeks ago or so, we had a vote on RECs, whether to retire them or sell them. We had 4 voting members present. 3 of the members voted, asked that the RECs be retired. One of the members voted that they be sold. I want to ask you that you do have a responsibility to the ratepayers, but the responsibility certainly includes more than just a dollar sign. That I would hope that everything we do does not revert to the dollar sign. I'm also a ratepayer, and I'm very concerned about sustainability. I would ask that if we claim to be sustainable, we want our RMLD to be sustainable as much as feasibly possible, and we want to claim that we can't sell it away. I was told that selling it is similar to cap and trade. I would differ with that. I would suggest to you that in cap and trade, there's a certain amount of sustainability that a company has to reach. And then if you go over that and you get more, for example, okay, they want you to have 10% sustainability, so your company gets 14%. All right, so you get 4%, you sell to another company that has only 6%, they buy your 4%. And now you claim you have 10% sustainability. That's fine. Here, we don't have, we're going to sell it all. We'll have no sustainability. If we sell all the RECs, we don't have any. We can't claim it and sell it. Because the person or the company we're selling it to will claim it. They have a right to claim it. We can't both claim it. Because in that case, we're claiming twice the amount of power that was made sustainably. So from the Climate Committee, I would ask you to consider retiring the RECs to work towards sustainability. The Climate Committee several years ago voted that we try to get 12% reduction in our greenhouse gases by 2012. Obviously, that's not going to happen. That wasn't just for the RMLD, that was for our town in general. But I would ask you to please go on the sustainability route. If we know what's happening, I mean, if your eyes are open, you see what's happening to the world today. The climate there's changes, we've got to do something. I mean, there's a time when you have to kind of admit it. You can't keep pushing it under the rug, pretend it's not happening, declare that it's invalid, it's fake, it's a fraud. I mean, there's a point when you have to look at the science. There's a point when you have to say we have to stop making a change. Yeah, sure, what we do here in Reading, are we going to affect climate change worldwide? No. But if 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 Reading RMLDs start to do it, then you have effect. You know, you can't wait for it to come from the top down. We got to start here, and we have to be an example. So, and trust the people. Not everybody, and not even Mr. McManus is looking for the final buck. He also, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but he wants what's best for everybody. We may have a difference of opinion, but what's best for everybody is to start getting on the sustainability kick, and not to be fearful of it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ron. Other members? Gentlemen, we'll take this gentleman here and then continue.
Good evening. My name is John Arena. I live at 26 Francis Drive here in Reading. I'm a town meeting member and a member of the Finance Committee. I'm here tonight as a private citizen. Besides the two discussions you've had so far, there's another aspect of this I'd like to raise, which is the greater desire of all of us is to increase the demand for sustainable energy. We want to increase the user's desire for this. Paradoxically, if you hang on to these RECs, you deny the market, those that would buy them from you, the opportunity to buy them, and you, in the marketplace, increase their price. If you constrict supply, you increase price. In a larger sense, by selling them, you will ultimately increase the demand for renewable energy because you will encourage the sale of these RECs, which comes with the production of more of them. If you want to look at the larger goal, creating more renewable sources, you actually want to encourage the entire user base to become participative. By selling these RECs, you achieve that end goal. It's the short-term view versus the long-term view. And by selling these, you create excitement and energy, no pun intended, in the marketplace about the opportunity to participate in renewable energy, even where I don't have a contract necessarily. I can still claim my little piece of the pie. And that, in a larger sense, has more bang for the buck than what it means for Little Reading. You've got far more leverage contemplating the sale of these and the impact it has in a continuing fashion throughout the years, done by other towns, done by us in the future, than the economic value to us at the moment. The second point that as a consumer, which I can't get through my head, is this power's already been produced. This water's come over the dam, this wind's gone through the propeller, the sun rays have already been absorbed and turned into electrons. The power is done. What we're talking about now is the right to say that we consumed it. That's bragging rights. It's like having the meal, we leave the restaurant full, we're satisfied, and now we've got to pay for the check to prove that we ate our meal. I could care less about bragging rights. But if somebody else does care about it, and feel, and again, the power's already been produced, the goodness has already been delivered into the economy and into the environment. By selling them, you encourage more demand. It has a greater downstream effect than you might imagine. So think not just about this week or this month or this town, but think about the larger goal of driving, increasing, encouraging more demand. And I think you'll see the wisdom of maybe letting these go towards satisfying that larger goal. It's a difficult conversation. It's obviously a controversial topic, but thank you for entertaining my conversation tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, the board, the staff, and the advisory board. My name is John Rogers. I live at 39 Tower Hill Road in North Reading. I'm also a senior energy analyst at the Union of Concerned Scientists, a national organization based in Cambridge. who happens to work on renewable energy. I've worked in renewable energy for 2 decades now, including since I joined UCS, working on voluntary renewable energy issues. So I have a few things to say, that I'm happy to answer any questions about the importance of the market. I'll say from my perspective, when Reading became part of the what was then called the Cities for Climate Protection movement about 6 years ago, Ron, something like that. I thought that was great. I wish North Reading could do something like that, but we really looked to Reading for leadership and inspiration, and that was a terrific start. When RMLD, 4 years ago, introduced the Green Choice Program. So here's a municipal utility offering a voluntary, an opportunity, a voluntary market, voluntary renewable energy to its customers right there on the bill. I thought that was terrific. I mean, that showed real leadership, real foresight, real understanding of what it is people wanted. And I've been very pleased. I saw the numbers recently, and very pleased to see that that there was adoption, that people took that on, and that there was very little drop even during the economic downturn. I think that speaks volumes to the RMLD territories, RMLD customer base's interest in renewable energy. It's a small portion of the customer base that's taking advantage of it now, but just to see that, I think that's marvelous. And then to see the renewable energy purchases, and I kept this by my bed because I've been meaning to thank, actually write Vinny or the commissioners to say thank you for this, because I think, here's the headline: RMLD acquires more green power. RMLD is saying, look, we understand that there's value in this, and there are a lot of reasons why one might want to do this. We understand that our customer base might want us to do this, and so we're going to do this, and we did this. And I think that's terrific. I think that if you look at the national perspective, until we have a national energy policy, until we have some sort of driver for renewable energy, some sort of overarching driver for renewable energy at the national level, the leadership has to come from elsewhere. Massachusetts in 1997 became essentially the first state to mandate that all its investor-owned utilities hit a renewable energy target, and that target has been bumping up every year. 29 states plus the District of Columbia now require that of their utilities. But Massachusetts back then didn't require that munis do it, that municipal utilities participate. And so it takes leadership at the level of the municipal utility to do something, to say, look, we want to increase our portion of renewable energy. We understand the value that has. And there are lots of things, whether it's in terms of energy security or diversity, or the fixed prices that we get, or the greenness, the renewable energy, the sustainability that we're voting for with our dollars. And I just thought that was terrific. The voluntary renewable energy market, notwithstanding the comments of the prior speaker, it's actually been a major driver. It's been responsible, it's been the market for something like half of renewable energy produced in this country since 1998. And this is people who are buying those RECs and retiring them. Because if you buy them and sell them, you're not actually doing anything to drive the market forward. It's buying them and retiring that then has an N-Star or a National Grid or some other entity that's required to buy them for compliance, has to go out there and find more. And so what do? They turn to the private sector, and the private sector produces more. Maybe not right then, but the next month, or the next year, or 2 years down the road, and it's an ongoing cycle. So those voluntary renewable energy purchases are driving renewable energy development. They're a major piece. If, as a community, we decide to sell the RECs, then there are two things. One, the next headline says, that has to say, we decided not to acquire green power. So let's be clear. I think some of you saw the materials that I supported from the EPA, from the Federal Trade Commission, from the Union of Concerned Scientists, from others that would basically say it would be fraud to count that as renewable energy, because the renewable energiness is wrapped up in that renewable energy certificate, and that goes to the buyer. If we're the buyer and we retire them, we get to make those claims. And we get to do those because we understand that this is what we want. This is the future we want as a community. This is the future we want for our children. So I think you made a great decision. This represents a great decision. I think this is the one you should stick with, retiring with. So thank you. Again, I'm available for questions.
Right, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other comments? Okay, hearing none, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. You obviously thought about this issue as we have, and you know, put some thought into it, some work in it, and I do want to thank you for your comments. Out of the 4 speakers, what we sort of heard were 2 for selling and 2 for holding, and that reflects, you know, quite frankly, the difficulty I think that the town in general and this board in particular might have. And so I think what that shows is that either we're representative of you or you're representative of us. I'm not sure which is correct, but okay. Now, if any of you want to be recognized during the meeting, I would ask that you raise your hand, and I'll do my best to give you an opportunity to speak.
We can have a presentation by the staff.
No.
Or just figure we've had it before.
Actually, it was my intent, I mean, not to do that. Was not my intent to go through this entire encyclopedia of handouts that we have. I'm assuming everyone's had them. You've had an opportunity to read them. If there's some issue that I think needs to be discussed, but it was not my intention to do that.
Maybe we need to pick up the discussion on this side of it, or make a recommendation to the folks.
Well, just before you do, I think there is one issue that at least I'm hopeful that we can agree on, and that I think a decision to sell has to be linked with what we do with that money.
Well, I was going to...
So now, I actually thought I heard at the Board of Selectmen meeting the inkling of a consensus that says if in fact we do vote to sell these, that they would be used solely to reduce power costs, and that we would not use them to make other investments. I think at the Board of Selectmen meeting it was actually said that we could create a separate fund if we wanted to invest in specific renewable projects here in our own hometowns. But I think it would be important to clarify that before we actually vote. So let me I'll ask on our side, you can ask on your side. I mean, do people believe that we can agree on that if we do sell them, any money has to be flowed back through the purchase power clause?
One of the contemplating that, I want to make a couple comments. I think we've got a lot of input. One of the things that's important to keep in mind here is that simply the renewable energy certificates encompasses a bunch of small issues, smaller issues under it. One is we have really 3 different programs going on. One is the Green Choice program, which ratepayers pay extra money. That money goes to buying RECs on the market now, and it is specifically detailed that they be retired. We have RECs that have been produced under our contract over the last year with Swift River. There's a series of hydro plants, 4 plants if I remember. As of right now, they've just been paying. Not sold, not retired, just paying. Third, in this next year, 2012, this year, we're expecting the steam up in Concord, New Hampshire to come online, which is a wood-burning plant that will produce far more RECs. I think also a subsidiary issue, as you mentioned, is if any RECs are sold, what do you do with money? And I saw inklings in the minutes of the subcommittee meeting, and I know it was expressed in the last joint meeting we had, but probably anything we decide should be reviewed annually. So they're all sort of issues that tie into what appears to be one. And with that sort of intro and some more information for the folks involved. There are various numbers, but just a rough outline that, if the RECs, the annual RECs from those hydro plants went to market about in these times, it's about 450 to 500,000. If the value. When the conference scheme anticipated with them, we're talking 125 to 100, 125 to 1.5 billion. So overall, we're looking at potentially 1.75 to 2 million. Not expressing opinion way, but that's the size of what we're talking about. All those things are important factors, unfortunately or unfortunately. With that, I don't know if you want to take off discussion on this side or.
Well, I mean, you raise an interesting point about how far in advance, if in fact we do authorize a sale, and what I heard you suggest was that for calendar year 2012, and we go back and revisit it at the end of the year. Is that?
Well, I knew it came up at our last meeting, which you attended. I saw that it was up in the subcommittee meeting as well. And it might have been at the last board meeting as well, that a couple people mentioned that, that they did very good, that they were.
Well,
In other words, the review date is something that is a subsidiary issue in addition to.
right.
Don't do anything that's permanent.
Well, and even if we didn't, this board or some future version of it could always reverse that decision. So, I mean, I guess, so I really see two ancillary issues on the table. One is, for what period of time do we agree to sell them? And I heard a proposal for 2012 calendar year. And then we're back to the issue of, what are we able to do with those funds? And the reason why I think that's important is I really don't want to have any misunderstanding going forward.
Let me just address the issue of review. The department's fiscal year is June 30th, year end.
Right.
So I would think that it'd be better to actually, instead of waiting to December of each year, that we discuss this in June of each year to match the fiscal year of the department. So, I mean, I'm in favor of at least having an annual review of this going forward. And I think the June, July time period would be a time period at which to make that decision going forward. I think our budget process will start, I think, in January. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think we actually vote the budget sometime in the time period, April, May, and try to have the budget in place, voted at that point, between the review of both the CAB and the board's budget committee. So I would think that some sort of review should take place as maybe part of the budget process each year.
So would that mean, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if that means we should set the sale between January 1st of 2012 and June 30th of 2013 for an 18-month period? And I don't want to make this more than it is, but I really do not want to have any more disagreements or confusion over what we're doing. It's how we get into this in the first place. And the only way I know to address that is to make it lucidly clear what it is our intentions are.
I was going to suggest that we still don't have a motion on the table, but at least from this side, I was going to maybe do a round robin of the members, get their input, see if we start getting consensus on this side.
Well, I have a motion that we could read if that would be helpful.
I'd rather get input from the CAB and hear their recommendation. I mean, that's why we originally delayed this, Mr. Chairman.
Right, but we can put a motion on the table and then still have that input. Well, I mean, what's the advantage of putting the motion on the table after we hear the
I'd
input?
like to hear what they have to say. It may affect what the motion would be.
Well, then we can. Okay, Arthur, why don't, does anybody else have any objection to us withholding the motion until, okay, Arthur, why don't you?
Yeah, I mean, well, my intent is I know we kicked around this issue the last meeting, and was to, I seem to always do a good job of getting some consensus, and just to get everybody's input. I know I've lost some stuff, but, you know, the rest of it.
Are you looking for an answer on what to do with the cell, or?
Anything, any of the issues.
Well, I'm a strong proponent that we maintain sustainability. I think keeping these wrecks off the market will drive the price up. I agree. Down from North Reading. But keeping this price up, we will encourage further renewable energy development. So my thought would be to
For both projects and so forth.
I'm sorry?
Both projects, Concord Steve.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I think it's important that Reading become a leader, and as I believe what the yearly revenue is around $90 million approximately. So the benefit to the ratepayer is, I think, is relatively minimal. And if the board of directors instructed RMLD to purchase renewable energy, that I believe was at the behest of the ratepayers. So the ratepayers are also interested in a sustainable energy portfolio.
I'm still relatively new on this board, and I do have a lot of questions. I think my general sense is that, I agree with Tony that one of the reasons I wanted to get active on this board was to help promote renewable energy and sustainable issues. And I'm very glad that it's a prominent issue. I think that's the good news. Clearly we have some debate or controversy over the best way to implement that. And I frankly still have more questions than answers right now. And the first thing I'd like to ask right now is this a one-time decision? If we say we're going to sell them or retire them, that's it? Or we could, if we generate new recs every year, correct? So we could say we're going to retire these, and then next year say, oh no, we're going to keep these. So
Or vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa.
Yeah, I
So
think
we
that's
can
the
do,
time
we can do
period.
it year by year.
Right, so when Commissioner Pacino said, make this decision in conjunction with our budgeting process in our fiscal year, which runs from July 1st to June 30th. And here we are, January 1st for all intents and purposes. So if we were to make a decision for the next 18 months, that would take us till the end of fiscal year 2012-13, at which time, since we're having so much fun, we could all get together and do this again, whatever the outcome is. So I mean, it's not an irrevocable decision, at least in my view. I mean, 'cause, and we may have a different group of folks here. Who knows?
Mr. Howard?
Mary Ellen?
I feel a little differently because I feel that if the CAB and the board were to adopt a voluntary renewable portfolio standard or some renewable energy policy, that would supersede an in review, or it might provide for an in review. So I'm not, I don't feel bound to committing to an annual review. I mean, perhaps for the first year, but I would prefer to see us develop a policy that kind of, sets us on a course for a while.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the last few weeks, I weighed both sides of this issue. I think as some of the members know on both the boards, I was one of the CAB members back a few years ago that really pushed for the promotion of renewable energy, green power, being able to support the green power. I think at this time, my leaning is towards retiring the recs. I don't think that it's in the best interest, and I hear the ratepayer part of it on the financial standpoint. I heard from John Rogers, one of the gentlemen from North Reading. I have also heard from some other people in North Reading who couldn't be here tonight. Every one of them has stated to me they want to retire, see the recs retire. I don't think that we can promote being a green power company in our portfolio if we sell them. I think that's a misleading statement. I am not in favor of selling. I'm in favor of retiring them. I think the chairman of the RMLD, Commissioner Hahn, has made a very, in reading the documentation that I've been able to review over the last couple of weeks, I think Commissioner Hahn makes a very strong case for retiring the recs. And I would not be in favor of the sale of them. My preference is retire them, be able to say that we have the green power. I also agree with Commissioner O'Neill that I think jointly between the two boards, we do need to develop a very strong policy and adhere to it, whichever way it goes. I think in fairness to everybody, including the general manager, there needs to be something in place so that we can say this is what we have for policy, this is how we're going to proceed from here, and that's my opinion on the matter. And I would hope tonight that we can resolve this one way or the other so that we can move on and conduct other business of the RMLD. But I am strongly in favor of retirement.
Yeah, it hasn't been an easy decision. I've been back and forth both ways looking at these. I have to agree with John here. After the emails and some of the input that I've had, these recs seem to be, they are a benefit of our efforts that we put out there, and saying that we are green, sustainable, we want to keep on that path, and to sell these as a green, I think that would be a false statement. Although fiscally, you know, my initial reaction would be to sell them off and use them to reinvest in other renewable energies. I'm leaning towards retirement.
From my own, similar to the rest of you, conflicted about this. Probably gone back and forth 1,000 times. The first thing I look at is there's as much as $2 million sitting on the table. And I'm a frugal person from way back. I don't leave money on the table. I happen to go to a casino once every 4 years. I don't leave money on the table. It would have an impact on the rate payers. There's been at least one point over the last 10 years that we did a refund to ratepayers that was even a smaller amount. $2 million or possible up to $2 million is important, even more so in these worst economic times we've had since the Great Depression. Most people are getting by, but cutoffs are up, delinquencies are up. They were up hugely for 1 or 2 years. They've come back to a little more reality now, but they're still serious. On the other hand, purchasing renewable energy sources has to be a priority. You have to support the market that's out there in terms of developing them. Swift River is a great example. Actually, a former member of the CAB actually ended up working with them and basically took us off that they were available. But they were out there searching for somebody to buy the power. That ended up being a perfect marriage. But these projects have a hard time finding purchasers, even though you would think they'd be plentiful. It does come at a premium. The question is, we've looked at so far, the Energy Services Department did an excellent job in the 2 major ones we've signed, looking at projects that, within reason, aren't catastrophically above normal rates. You want to see that just at the Cape Wind. That's why it's been battled so hard from a number of sides. But that's really the yin and yang of where the market is right now, that green power, but at what price? And, you know, who you're bankrupting, or who you're not bankrupting, or well, what's the economic harm? It's not bad for a lot of us, but there are people that it's very difficult. whether it's another, $1 a month or $2 a month or whatever it is. That may not be the right figure. But as I said, with all due respect to some of the arguments in me, I don't rely on the sort of concept that if we sell them, we're not buying green energy. Of course we have. That plant doesn't exist unless we're buying it. And I don't care what it's called. It's still a green source. The energy, if you're under a portfolio situation, then it doesn't count. We're not. That still doesn't necessarily, justify in and of itself some, but I know on my analysis, I didn't really give that a whole lot of weight, I must admit. I think the important thing is to be buying from such plants at a reasonable price. I'm also troubled by, struggle with, I should say trouble. The Concord plant is a wood burning plant. And there are far many environmentalists and green energy proponents who don't consider wood burning renewable or green. Because the real question about the carbon footprint, particularly the CO2 that goes into the air. I'll struggle with that. It's been torn. To be honest with you, could easily vote in my own way. I'm not postured on this in any sense. I could easily vote in either direction. I did give, I think the other thing is that it's important to kind of walk through an analysis. The Green Choice program we have mandates we purchase or retire. To be honest with you, I'm not sure why we shouldn't be considering purchasing RECs that we're developing out of our own contracts and retiring that way. Get the money back in and they're retired. I'm probably, from the sort of general concept, philosophical way, I'm probably most prone to seeing that the Swift River ones are retired. I'm more troubled by the Concord Steam. That's the bigger chunk. I'm not as wedded to retiring those as probably equally wedded to selling them. That's the bigger source. There's also some debate as what do you do with the money? There's some ideas of turning it and go out and buy more power at a premium. There's a huge argument that we should go back to the ratepayers through PPA, purchase power adjustment. There was other suggestions to set up basically a bank to fund renewable projects within the geographic confines of our service territory. Any of those are good. I'm not sure which ones are, whether they're all legal. I defer to general manager and council on that. I do think it's important, whatever we decide, that either on a calendar year or a fiscal year, that the sources of them and what happens with them is reviewed. Maybe to continue what we're doing. Policies don't last forever. Policy may very well be to review them annually. I'm never wedded to staying in one direction or one way. Times change. In 2007, nobody expected 2000 to follow 2008, and that worldwide banks and countries went bankrupt in a matter of minutes. We would have thought countries in Europe would be bankrupt, but essentially they are. I just haven't named it yet. So things happen. You never get support to never get too wedded to. We always have goals and strive to a direction. So that's where I'm coming from. But I certainly at this point entertain a motion. I don't know, maybe one of you would put from that side, otherwise I'd entertain a motion from the membership over here.
They should have a motion. Sorry? They should have a motion over there.
Well, I should ask, would anybody have any further comments? We'll go one out the other.
I have no objection to CAB making a motion.
I think we got a question for the audience.
I'm sorry, question, sir.
I want to stand up again, but, so I see two scenarios, and maybe I don't understand the math. I see a scenario where they get burned, and we re-execute the same program next year with the same funding to buy additional X units of renewable energy, and we claim the credit. I see another scenario where we spend the amount we spent this year plus the incremental spend we get out of selling these. We give up the right to say we used it, but we sleep at night secure in the knowledge that we've actually increased organic demand from the suppliers by being able to steer that incremental revenue to a Stewart River or to any other small producer of our choice. That's what I meant earlier when I said you drive demand. You get to steer the extra cash towards a provider of your choice of renewable, any source of renewables you choose. It all comes on economics, but this $2 million incremental funding on the table, it either has $2 million of value that you can choose to steer, or it has zero. If you, I think it was Robert Kennedy that said, if you don't care who gets the credit, you can get a lot done. To me, this is all about who gets the credit, who wants to get a lot done. I'm not interested in necessarily bragging, but I would be interested in doubling down on the organic demand equation. I think that really have much more staying power. Do I misunderstand?
Yes.
Yes. If we sell these certificates, we don't direct who they go to. I mean, they could be sold to a broker who could turn around and sell them to someone who's just buying compliance. And not,
$2 million of cash.
Excuse me.
No.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman Hunt. I think what Mr. Arena is referring to is that the money we would realize if we were to sell these, we would put towards buying additional projects. And my
no.
understanding is that's not the case. If we were to sell these, that money, my understanding, would go into what's called our fuel charge. It
Right.
would go into that portion of our budget, correct?
that's my understanding.
That's where it's collected now.
And so, you know, I mean, if the RMLD wants to create a new fund, we have a fund now. There's a charge in everybody's electric bill. It's a real small charge. But we collect that money, and Ms. Parento, Mr. Selvin, and Mr. Carpenter go around the service territory and they invest in conservation measures at your house or your business, and that saves you money. So we decided a fairly long time ago, we wanted to invest in energy efficiency. So we collect money and we reinvest it in our customers' premises, either your house or your business. The RECs, though, because they were bought as part of a long-term purchase power agreement, I think would have to go back into, basically be used to reduce that. So I don't think you can double down to the extent that
If
you're
they
talking.
didn't reduce, would that displace a cost elsewhere that would show up?
Well,
in the income statement?
as I said, we can, as a group, decide that, you know, that conservation program works great. Let's have an even bigger program and use that to fund renewables, putting a solar panel on everyone's house. I mean, we have to raise a lot of money. You could do that whether you sell a RECs or not. My point is that once you sell a RECs, you can't direct you can't direct where they go because you don't know. And I do think that because we collected this money through a portion of our tariff purchase power adjustment, that's where the credit should go back. And I think that's the only right way to do it.
Mr. Hahn, as an example, my understanding is that if we were to sell the Swift River Rex for 1 year, approximately $450,000 to $500,000, that money would go back into the fuel charge and would reduce the average residential customer who uses 750 kilowatts a month, would reduce their bill by 50 cents a month. And for the 50 cents a month, you would give up all these claims to renewable energy, and you would not be helping to develop new additional, renewable projects out there in the market. That would be the actual benefit to the customer, is a 50-cent reduction on their monthly bill to sell the Swift River Rex each year. And that's a floating amount, what those RECs are worth. That's not, a definite sum, and those, depending on what's out there on the market, those can change in value. So that's not a guaranteed amount either. We can't take that money and put that towards, a specific concrete project.
We get it if you don't sell it. There's no cost to that.
Right, it's all, the cost for those RECs are already included in what we are already paying in our bills now. We are paying for those Swift River projects on our monthly bills right now. They're a very competitively priced renewable project. It's not expensive, it's not a Cape Wind. The energy services staff has done a great job. And so we're all now, it's shared among all our customers, the cost of that renewable energy.
To amplify what Marianne's saying, the rates we have now incorporate have this two purchase power agreements in them. They are at a slight premium, they're not at a major premium. We do a lot of purchasing that's at a major premium, the spot market each day that we have to, 5% that we have to go out each day is at a humongous cost, 20 times this amount of that. So it's a big number. And given that, we're still very competitive. We're not the lowest rates in the state, but we're definitely down among.
We're the fourth lowest rates in the state.
Of course, we're like second lowest in this area.
That's true.
In Massachusetts. We usually be, I don't think we get people like Middleton anymore. It's usually just PB. Anyway, so that's so in other words, even though we've got some projects here that are slightly fun, we're still doing pretty well on the rate side. So it's just a further sort of fleshing out what everyone is.
Thanks. Mr. Hahn, I wanted to add that Mr. Karakasani's comments reminded me I wanted to say that our annual purchase power contracts cost us about $39 to $40 million a year. So 500,000 is, that percent of approximately 40 million a year that we spend on all our power supply to, to serve our 4 towns.
Well, actually, I think it's a bigger number than that. I think the total power supply is probably above 70 million.
Oh, okay.
So if we have 90 million in revenues, round numbers, 13, 14 million go to the physical assets we have. I mean, the wires, the poles, the meters, the transformers, and roughly 70 to 75 million goes out the door to buy electricity because we don't have any of our own generators in the town. So it's an even smaller percentage than you initially indicated.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Solly?
I have a question of the general manager. We have these assets in hand and have been collecting them right along. How does our accounting system account for those assets? Do we see it on the monthly report?
The monthly report would reflect the fuel charge revenues, which a portion of the fuel charge revenues is where the RECs would be paid for by the.
But I mean, we have these assets in hand.
Yeah, but we don't delineate that.
Does not show up as an asset on our books.
We don't delineate that.
It's being expensed.
That's our
Pardon me?
Is our accountant?
You mean our auditor?
Our auditor? What is our auditor?
We've had a meeting with our auditor, and we're going to get a written explanation of how they believe we should handle that, depending on whether we retire the RECs or we sell the RECs. But I told them not to give us a statement on that until after this meeting.
Well, I don't know if anybody else wants to.
And I just muddy the water even further at this point.
If you must.
As I understand it, right now, these are paid out in part of the fuel purchase cost, so they're being expensed, the cost on this right now. One of the things that is possible is potentially this board could adjust the rates. If we wanted to adjust the rates and put more into energy conservation, so if we saved, now, my position is fairly open on this. I mean, again, if we sell the RECs, whatever monies we could realize, we each year, and why I'm in favor of some sort of annual review, could adjust the rates. We could put maybe if we cut our fuel cards down, maybe we could adjust the conservation rate, so that there could be more potentially conservation money that would go out to be used in the service territory for projects. So there is a possibility of that going on in addition.
But that decision could be made independently of how we treat the RECs. Because we do it now with conservation.
It could,
okay.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, that's maybe a discussion for another day.
The question is, I mean, it could be made independently, but it would basically mean if we did it without selling the RECs, then you'd be raising the rates to the customers.
That is a decision we would have to make.
Right. I'm saying that potentially, to address John's point, there potentially is a way that there could be some adjustments of the system there, of the rates.
Could you wash it through the fuel charge and
Right.
something else that's compensatory where
Right.
the consumer is left even?
To muddy the waters even
million
further.
in your pocket that you can steer any way you want.
Okay.
Fred?
Mr. Chairman, just a question, Mr. Wolverine. If in fact you did sell, if you did, and you could take that $500,000 or $1 million or whatever that number is of revenue that you got from that, would it be possible to put that into I'll call it a separate fund, another bucket, some collection vehicle here, that could in fact be used by the department to expand maybe the utility-owned renewables? Maybe we need a windmill, maybe we need a solar array or some other new technology that's out there. And then we really become even greener. We really are doing even more because now we're buying into that whole process. I don't think there's a person in this room that doesn't believe that the way to the future is to get away from fossil fuel generated power and to try and maximize how much we get from renewable sources, whatever they are. So is that a possibility, or is that just something that's so way out of whack that it doesn't make any sense?
Well, I think you could set up a separate fund to do that, but we collected this money from our customers for these purchases through a written tariff that's filed with the state, and that's the Purchase Power Adjustment Clause. And it says its purpose is to reflect purchases and sales of electricity. So my interpretation of those tariffs, and I will tell you that I've done more rate-making work for utilities in the state, not counting this one, than I care to remember. And so my review of that tariff says that if we do sell these, we would need to flow it back. Now, as my esteemed vice chairman says, sure, we can always, start a new fund and fund windmills, but that's really a separate decision.
Right, no, and I understand that. I guess I was just trying to see if there was some other alternative, because the goal, I think, that everybody has is to get more renewable.
Well, and actually, expand on that a little bit more, Fred. I'm surprised you didn't notice this, but your bill actually has an extra tariff on it these days. We voted it a year ago. I think, 2 years ago, energy conservation charge. It funds Jared's department. In fact, that is part, not total, a fund to subsidize some green projects within our territory. It does a lot more, you know, helping audits, people getting better equipment, promoting some varieties of technology, all kinds of things. He's doing so many different things I can't keep track of them. So many facets to it. But in some fashion, there already is a fun. One of the things is in service territory, some of the big ones that are obvious you can't do. Windmills, not enough wind as far as you got, you know, mountain top or on the ocean. You can put them up for more of a showpiece. Solar, that's one of the most expensive to do. So they all have their issues. We don't have any rivers running through the territory, so that would be, you know, unfortunate there. We're trying to do the next thing, you know.
Not enough water in the river, let's put it that way.
Not enough water in the river. Certainly storms in my deep, but anyway, so that's just further flushing that out as well.
I was just thinking to a different scale, that was all I was thinking.
Yeah.
Marilyn?
I feel that, to some extent, I know we're somehow looking for a reason to, a justification to sell the Rex. And we're dangling this money out in front of ourselves as a carrot to perhaps do something else. And to me, I disagree with Mr. Karakasani. To me, the essential argument is we give up the claims to greenness, renewable, sustainability, as I've said before, pick your adjective, if we sell the Rex. And that to me is the bottom line. So I really I'm not enamored of the arguments for all the different possibilities we could do with this supposed money. I just think that's a little bit of a, you know, a dead end. I also want to address the comment that Mr. Karakasani made about the possibility of using the money that we receive through our Green Choice program from those participants to possibly buy our own Rex. And I'm appalled by that thought. I've seen that in a memo from the staff, and I participate in that program, as many here probably do. And at this point, the Rex that we get from Swift River are shared among all our customers. We are all, you know, enjoying the benefits of that green energy. And if we were to sell off our greenness and then turn around and say that the money that the Green Choice participants give will then buy back those Rex, I find disturbing, and I would resign from the Green Choice program and would advocate that we give that up. So I did want to make a very strong point about that.
Thank you, Chairman.
Couple of points. One about cap and trade. And cap and trade says if you are better than the quota, then you can sell off the excess. Currently, our quota is 0. So if we were to sell off the excess, that is what cap and trade is. The second point, at our last meeting of this board, we went into executive session to discuss a power purchase. And a developer, a respectable developer in the area, wished to develop essentially within our power territory a solar farm.
Hey, Bob, I'm going to ask you to be a little careful because
I'm
that
being-
project was discussed in executive session, so just be careful where you go. Okay?
And wrote, and to sell the power to the light company. I mean, it was not solar cells on a roof, it was a solar farm. Unfortunately, because of the way we went into executive session, we could not go back into regular session to approve what we had done. But basically, the board thought that was a good idea. Now, anybody in solar is selling the Rex because there's a huge payback, and without all the subsidies, they can't do it. So basically, we are, we go ahead, we are enabling this project because you couldn't sell the power any other place. But also, we are not having any part of the recs. So, if you are one of those that says, well, we have to have the check, as the speaker said, to brag about it, we can't claim that's green. But I would puff out my chest if this thing goes ahead and would say, we enabled this solar farm to go ahead. If we had not approved it, there was no way for this project to go ahead. But yet, people might say, well, we gotta hang our head in shame because we don't have the recs from it. No, I won't hang my head in shame. I'll be very proud and say, we enabled this. The recs went elsewhere, but who cares? Another source of sustainable power will come about because of our actions. That same was true for Concord Steam. They were having the devil of a time finding places to buy their power. We enabled that to go ahead. Without the light department, it probably would not be doing ahead. So the recs, to me, are interesting, but I'm pragmatic. I say, let's get the power out there. Let's get the sustainable power, and let's not worry about these recs. Let's do the right thing for the customers.
Arthur, I think it'd be a good time to...
Yeah, I think we have, somebody's trying to make a motion on this side, we'll go from there. And maybe alternatives here, I'm not sure. John, I think that's it.
Mr. Chairman, I move the CAB recommend to the RMLD Board of Commissioners not to sell, not to sell current recs. However, they should be retired for both the Swift River and Concord Steam purchase power agreements for the duration of the contracts. Point of order.
Bob, this is their meeting. There's no point of order for us.
Could you read that again?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And we actually wrote down an alternative motion as well. You wanted to read it again,
Yeah,
we'll get a second on it.
Yeah. I move the CAB recommend to the RMLD Board of Commissioners not to sell the current recs. However, they should be retired for both the Swift River and Concord Steam purchase power agreements for the duration of the contracts.
Probably the word coverage.
Yeah, strike the word.
So a second on that motion?
So
We got a second.
it's not only this year, it's all future recs too?
Well, it can be subject to, the motion is subject to, that's an alternative.
Could we amend that for a
Sure.
period of time?
Sure.
So it's not, how long is it, the contracts you have to?
My recollection is, how long is this?
15-year contract.
I could put a review period in there too, but not that's been second. I wrote down yet another alternative here. Get back at that one.
Okay. Alternative to that would be to recommend to the Board of Light Commissioners adopt a policy of retiring all recs obtained for a period of time.
Yeah, that's a period of time.
Well,
Yeah.
you've had one motion moved and seconded, so what's the, I'm just curious what the status of that second one is.
Alternative motion. Well, first of all, while we're here, information on debate on the first motion. Second one hasn't been seconded yet,
Well, that kind of closes any options that we have. That's the way I look at it. That is definitely years. We won't have any options. At least this way here, we can have after years of going by, we get more green, sustainable, renewable energy, more RECs are being generated, we might want to reconsider this.
Well, two things quickly on that motion is that the first motion is the second, it restricts it to just Swift River and Steam. I'm assuming it's going to be more purchases over the next couple of years. So it could be a change of wording, but then, yeah, I mean, should it be reviewed every so often or whatever, that obviously ties it into duration of the contracts. Of course, any policy, any recommendation can be changed by another vote. 6 months from now, we don't like it, we recommended something else. But the second one was something we dreamed up here. It would be more encompassing. If the board's looking to adopt a policy, then frankly, that's what I'm hearing from some. They want a policy that's top notch. I don't recommend that. I couldn't support that to save my life. I think we have to kind of look at it. I don't know if it's restricting necessarily the Swift River and Rocket Steam and what time duration or short period. Tony? On the existing motion?
Are we voting?
Oh, yeah. Taking the debate. Comments.
I said what I need to say. I support Congress.
For the length of the contract?
I mean, unless we have a reason or another vote to make another recommendation.
Is that something that will sit with you? No.
No, I think it's,
I expect them to be a minority here, that's fine. As the motion exists, I think it's supported. But it's not, it's not a major point issue for me. Sorry. So hearing no further debate, I'll call for a vote of the question. All those in favor, why don't we, not going to need a voice vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
And all those opposed, say no. No. Your votes no. 4-1. It is adopted. Bring money to the Board of Elections.
Thank you.
Okay, you ready? We should probably follow the same format where each of us has a chance to talk to the COD. I thought that was very good.
Well, you want to make a motion first, or you want to talk first?
Why don't we make the motion at this point? And then I think, well, as part of the debate.
All right,
I think each of us should be given the opportunity to express our opinions.
That's fine. I'll entertain a motion, which I tried to write down what Arthur said, but let me see how close I
I got it
get.
written down here if you want.
Well, the secretary can read it, and we
We'll
can...
pass it along to Paula and Jean.
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners direct the general manager to hold and retire and not sell the renewable energy certificates received from RMLD's renewable energy purchases.
I think they actually referred specifically to the two projects. I think that needs to be...
From the Swift River and the Concord Steam projects for the duration of the contracts.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I guess I'll allow each commissioner, I think...
Start with the vice chair.
Okay.
Start with the
Vice chair wants to go first? This is sort of like the Army. Rank does have its privilege. Go right ahead.
All right. First off, I want to thank everybody for all their input. It's been a very interesting debate. There's been a lot of thought, a lot of input. I want to thank anybody who actually sent written comments in, that took the time to send the written comments. I read them all, and I thought some of them were very thoughtful. And for those who are not here tonight that sent written comments, I certainly thank them for their comments. And I'm glad that it's actually, all the comments will be made a part of the written record here going forward. I see this issue again, I think Fred Manmanga said some of the things that I feel, is we have a commitment to the ratepayers here. This is $2 million that are here. these projects have supported the facilities. They've got the facilities off the ground. I see that. I also see that, you know, in terms of the research, no other munis, and Vinnie can correct me if I'm wrong, are selling are retiring the wrecks. They're selling them. Am I correct in that, Vinnie? Yes.
The ones that
The municipals are under no mandate to sell these. There's no state mandate that we sell these.
Retire to retire.
Well, with Bob, let me finish, please. Thank you. In terms of we did appear in front of the Reading Selectmen. Both cases were made. The Selectmen were very much emphatic that they felt that basically these should be sold because they benefit the ratepayers. It was their feeling that there's benefits to the ratepayers and that we should go forward and have them to the ratepayers. You know, I think there's some way that there can be some sort of adjustment and balancing that can be done going forward in terms of how we maybe set some of the rates. I would like to see I would like to see it reviewed. At some point, I would offer amendment that the policy only cover through a period through June 30th of 2013. So there's a definite set period. I will offer that amendment when the chairman gives the appropriate time. I do feel they should be. There are many people out there in this economy who are struggling. You know, in real life, I'm a certified public accountant, and I have many companies that are struggling. I've got companies that have gone on, that basically after 35 years are going out of business, which is a shame, which is a crime. But that's the way it is. You know, and the economy has affected them. And I really think that we should sell these. It's something we go back, and 18 months from now we can go back. Who knows? State regulations, rules and regulations could change between them. Economic conditions could change. The world could change. Who knows? Maybe they'll blow up each other in the Middle East for all we know in some day, but that's a possibility. Whoever thought about the Arab Spring that took place this year and the regime changes that have gone on there? So the world does change. I do feel they should be sold. I've made that position, set that position forward before in front with this commission. If I understand this, I read Mr. Hahn's memo. I appreciate his memo. I thought it was very informative, very well done. I don't think I really understood the fact that what these recs were. Most of this discussion took place in the Power and Rate Committee when I was not there. I don't remember actually having, until this issue came up, a formal discussion here with the board, on the board level. But my position is that these should be sold, and they should be for the benefit of the ratepayers. And I really think it's part of our commitment to the ratepayers, not just the ratepayers in Reading, but the ratepayers in Wilmington, North Reading, and the half of Linfield that we have. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bob?
First point of order. I believe motions should be forward going, and the motion, I believe, should say hold and let them expire and remove the not sell. So that would be one way to approach it, or another way would be if you want to hold them, you could have a motion to sell and let that motion lose. But I think it should remove the negative. So that's one point of order. I'm a pragmatist. I believe a lot of people in Reading are pragmatists. They like to see good things happen, and maybe the words that go with them aren't so great. But if what has gone on is encourage sustainable power, those are all good things. And selling the wrecks does not change a bit. The sustainable power gets here. So I believe the pragmatic thing to do is to sell those wrecks.
Jan?
I believe that The argument that the power is still sustainable if you sell the RECs is incorrect. There's a lot of documentation that has been submitted to this committee demonstrating that at various levels of the government. They're the ones who set up the whole REC system in order to be able to account for this. The preponderance of comments that I've seen and received have supported retaining the RECs. Holding them drives the market to create more renewable energy. Selling is a short-term gain for a long-term harm and fundamentally does not make sense to purchase them and then turn around and sell them. It represents a loss. So I am against selling the RECs.
Marilyn?
Thank you. I'm opposed to selling the RECs. I feel that I do represent the ratepayers. There are many aspects of which you can represent ratepayers. There is, and one is not exclusive of the other, but we also have to take a look at quality of life, the quality of life on our planet, life for our children and our grandchildren, and I feel that voting to retire the RECs on the larger scale is symbolic of a vote for the future. I do want to correct a statement that Commissioner Pacino had made about the members of the commission who attended a Board of Selectmen meeting. There was no stance, there was no vote or motion taken by the Board of Selectmen in terms of how they feel about these. Two selectmen did speak up.
I take issue with that. I take issue with that.
Excuse me, two members of the Board of Selectmen did indicate, based on the information, not as extensive as we have received, but based on the information that they had, they would vote to sell. There was no motion. The Board of Selectmen, my feeling is, feels this is a board and Citizens Advisory Board decision. That's it. That's how I feel.
Okay. Well, my position on this is pretty well known to anybody who reads the Chronicle or does anything else in this town. We decided as a group some time ago, whether we want to admit it or not, that we wanted to include renewable energy in our supply portfolio. And we knew that that would be costing more than conventional power supplies. We knew that. So we're not going to make this 50% or 75% of our portfolio, but I think as a group, we thought that it was important to have a small percentage of our supply portfolio in truly renewable projects. And we worked very hard to get renewable projects that were reasonably priced. And I think we were fortunate to have achieved that. We looked at many projects for which the price was much higher and we said no. But we found two good ones, and we think that somewhere in a couple of years that this will approach approximately 9% of our portfolio, but right now it's pretty small. And it just doesn't make sense to me, having worked so hard to bring in renewable projects, to turn around and give that up. And we will have, if we do that, or if we had done that, we will have wound up raising our rates for no reason. And I just don't think that's the right thing to do. So in any event, I guess we've all had an opportunity for say, and we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. Does anybody need to have the motion reread?
Yes, if you would, please. Sure.
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners direct the general manager to hold and retire and not sell the renewable energy certificates received from RMLD's renewable energy purchases from the Swift River and Concord Steam projects for the duration of the contracts.
Yeah, I'd like to amend that to say to at the end add that through June 30, 2013, not to sell through June 30, 2013.
Okay, there's a motion to amend the original motion. Is there a second? All right, that's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that item?
Just quickly, again, I feel that, with circumstances that may change over a period of time, that there needs to be an appropriate review period at that point. And 18 months seems like a reasonable review period for me. But that'll now tie it into the fiscal year and the budget process.
Okay, but you realize that if we voted the original motion, we could always go back and revisit the question.
But I'd like to state that.
I understand your
because who knows?
preference.
Who knows?
Okay,
I
so-
run for election next year, maybe they'll throw me out.
I doubt that. You've been here for what, 65 years?
25.
25, well, 65, 25. All right, we have an original motion and an amendment to amend, a motion to amend that original motion, and that's been seconded, to add a time frame through June 30th, 2013. So I'm going to call for a vote on the second motion, which if you vote yes, you'll vote to add Bishop Lucino's words to the end of the motion and make this approval to hold these through June 30th, 2013. And if you vote no, you want to retain the original motion. So I will call for show of hands. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? All right. So we now are back to the original motion, which is to instruct the general manager to retain the recs, hold and retire and not sell. Any further discussion on that? So a yes vote here, just to make sure everyone's clear, a yes vote here means we retain and retire the recs. And a no vote means you're not in favor of doing that. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Carries 3-2.
Move to adjourn. For the citizen fire report, looks like we actually have a meeting with you and I want to thank everybody for attending, and also thank you for a very respectful debate. A lot of times you don't get to have these when you talk about power. And it's really, it was more philosophy than nuts and bolts money that or other issues. The rest of our agenda is, I can assure you, it's quite boring. But thank you all, both the board members and those attending from the public, for all the input. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Before we have a vote, I would also like to echo Martha's comments to all the members of the public who took time out of their busy lives to come down here and share your thoughts with us. I do know that we want you to know that we value that input, and we're always here to receive it. Take a vote on the motion to adjourn. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to our conversation. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, Fred.
Yes, it was.